Hi everybody, welcome back to the SINKwealth. This is the channel where we focus on how to win with money with a single income and no kids. That's what SINK stands for, if you didn't know. If you're new to the channel, welcome. You're very welcome, and we hope we will find things that will inspire you to stay and subscribe. And if you have been here before but you're not yet subscribed, then we're going to ask you, what on earth are you thinking about? Subscribe and join the community. So today's video, we are focusing on what to do when the markets are in chaos. And that is because right now, the markets are in chaos. There's so many words that you can use to describe what's going on. You could say the markets are crashing, the markets are in free fall, the markets are all over the place. The end result is the same. Things are just so unpredictable. There are lots of swings, up, down, 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 up, down. It's so scary, right now. But what I need you to know is that this is not new. This happens so many times in the stock market. It has happened so many times. I can't even count how many times it's happened. You could look that up if you wanted. But overall, despite these crashes or downturns, the markets have always recovered. Okay? So the point of this video is not to tell you what to do. It's just to explain a little bit of what's going on, why it's happening, and what options you have. So first of all, why are the markets crashing? And, even when we talk about crashing, what is the definition of a market crash? I think just going red for some people, that's a crash. But then when we're talking about, kind of the lingo that's used in the finance world or the financial world, when the markets lose about 10%, that's could be correction, things kind of settling down. People had overbought, and now people have realized, okay, this is not actually the true value of the stocks, and there's a correction. When the markets lose about 20%, like what has happened to most stocks right now, that is technically a crash. To me, that is the markets crashing. And yes, my portfolio, I've lost nearly 20% of my portfolio right now as things stand. And you may be wondering, gosh, if you're watching your stock market, the stock market every day, you're watching your portfolio every day, how come you've allowed it to fall by 20%? Why didn't you do something earlier? Because you could stop that by putting in stop orders or limit orders, etc. You can control when to buy and sell the markets, but I've just let things do whatever they're going to do. And I will explain a little later on when I tell you what I'm doing. So just an explanation of what's going on. First of all, that's it. The markets have crashed, and they kind of feel like they're in free flow. Nobody knows what's going on, etc. And now we're going to think about why that is going on. So the what, now the why. There are lots of reasons why the markets have gone down in recent times. First of all, there's the geopolitical issue, which you must know about unless you're living under a rock. There has been a lot of disruption in the Middle East caused by certain events, which we'll not go into because we're not a political station or political channel. But there's been a lot of unrest which have resulted in the oil fields in the Middle East being blown up, and therefore the availability of fuel has just it's much more difficult to get fuel from the Middle East, which is like the biggest oil market in the world. There are oil fields in lots of places, but the Middle East are still the kings and queens of the oil market, the global oil market, and therefore they have said they're not selling their oil anywhere because of what's happened. You know, some of the oil fields, etc., have been blown up. So they're thinking, yeah, we're not gonna give you our oil. You can suffer. So the result of that is that people are finding it more difficult to trade. You need fuel to move your stuff around, inventory, or just move your trucks about. And if you don't have fuel, a lot of trucks are parked just now. But in addition to that, the price of oil has gone up. And many of you, if you drive cars, and I say if you drive cars because I don't drive a car, not because of any particular reason, but yeah, if you drive a car that uses fuel, whether it's diesel, petrol, or, you know, you've got a hybrid kind of thing, it might be electric, but you still got a bit of fuel that you need to buy, then you will have noticed that the price of oil has gone up. That's going to have an impact on gas prices, etc. You know, ooh. So yeah, anyway, that's another thing altogether. But the price of fuel has gone up. So in order for businesses to make profit, the prices have gone up. Prices of things have gone up, not just fuel, but other things as well. If you've noticed, if you do a weekly shop, you'll probably notice that much quicker, or a daily shop. Whereas if you do a monthly shop, then, you know, you might realize it a little bit later on. But the prices of things have generally gone up. And then on top of that, because of this uncertainty, because of the geopolitical unrest, the banks have decided not to reduce the interest rates, because that's how banks make their money, from interest. Now, what then happens, businesses, not only are they paying more for the fuel to move things around, or actually struggling to get fuel so have parked the cars, but businesses generally depend on either revenue generated or loans to create more business. In most cases, they rely on both. Now, if they're not able to shift their stock or inventory because of, people just don't have the money to buy their stuff, they're going to get less revenue. And number two, if now they have to pay more interest on a loan because the banks have not reduced their interest rate, then they're not going to be generating more business. So the business market is just going to be affected in so many ways. Now, the end result of that, if the business needs to make money, if they're not going to borrow money, they're going to try and generate money. And if they don't have a lot of stock to generate money, they're going to increase their prices. So that's why you see, again, the prices of things have gone up. Because for money to save, or say, right, what do we do now? A business, they might think, for us to save money, we either don't spend a lot, which is partly what some of them are doing, or they would say, right, we need to get rid of the workforce. But they can't do that easily. There are lots of laws now which protect the workforce, even though, people might not be aware of it. But in order to maintain the workforce, and most of them will do that again in case, things start to look up and they need the workforce. So again, they're going to increase the prices so that people can continue to get their salaries. So the business have been affected in so many ways. So again, that's going to make markets unpredictable because nobody knows when things are going to settle down. So that, it's just going to be a bit of a nightmare for as long as it's going to be. And then number three, people who are watching the stock market, like myself and like many of you, will now start to think about what to do with their portfolio. If you see the markets crashing, what do you do? Unfortunately, a lot of people go into panic mode, and when they panic, they try to do what they feel is the safest thing to do. And many people will sell their stocks. Anything that's positive, they'll sell. Sometimes people sell even things that's negative because they want to basically keep as much money as they can, because they're worried if they keep their money in the stocks, then the stocks will continue to fall, then they're going to lose more money, which in theory is true. And not even in theory, in reality is true. The markets are falling, the stock prices are going down, and therefore the value of the portfolio has gone down. As I said, I've lost about 20%. So what do we call that? Do we call that just, when the markets are crashing, There's so many ways to look at it, But when we look in the finance world, if the market has dropped about 10%, 5-10%, they'll call that a correction, because sometimes people get overexcited and buy things, and therefore, the price of the stocks go up, 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 up. People continue to buy, and that's it. And then people all of a sudden they realize, oh, is that stock actually worth that? Or they decide, what, I've made so much money, let me take some profit out. And then that's when you see the prices going up and down, but coming down to about 5-10%. And they call that a correction. The stock or that stock share, whatever, had been overbought, and now is coming down to a price that is actually more realistic. So that's what a correction is all about, my understanding anyway. And then if the market has gone down by about 20%, 15-20%, now you're really talking about a crash, which is what has currently happened. And it needs to be, some extreme things going on to cause that, which I have just talked about. So, people then go into flight mode and they try and take out their money and sell things. So, if you're slow, your portfolio is going to keep going down. How long that goes on for, nobody really knows, because, how long is a piece of string? How long is this geopolitical issue going to continue? Nobody knows, because, it needs to stop at some point, or we hope it will stop, but if it goes on for a while, and who knows the factors behind that, nobody knows. Really, because it's not just dependent on one person or one country. It's lots of countries get involved, and that's what affects all this stuff. So what then should you do? Now we come to what should you do? You've realized that the markets are falling. You've got money invested in the stock market, and if you're lucky, you have money, at the side, and this, hanging about in the wings, waiting for you to make a decision. So, my advice is always, don't make a decision when your emotions are running high. If you're worried, if you're sick with worry and you're anxious, you're probably going to make a decision that's not going to be in your best interest. Sometimes you might make a decision that makes you slightly comfortable, but overall, is that the best decision? Sometimes it's hard to tell. So there are a few options. Number one, do nothing. You can just leave things as they are. You don't put money into the markets, you don't take money out of the markets, you don't sell anything, you don't buy anything, you just leave things as they are. And then one day in the future, whether it's near future or longer term, then things will start to recover and things will go green again, and you'll start to see your profits gain. Obviously, the hope is that, if we're sitting at, positive 10%, you eventually go up to positive 20, 30, 100. That sort of thing. So do nothing. Just leave things as they are and then wait it out. Many people find that helpful because then they don't have to make a decision. They don't have to decide when to sell or when to buy, because that could be an incredibly difficult decision. When to buy, when to sell can be incredibly hard to know. And if you in the business of, buying and selling, then you have to be right twice. You have to be right, sell at the right time and then buy at the right time. And if you get one of those wrong, well, then you've lost out. For example, if you sell at a profit and then buy when things are really down, then you've done great, because you're gonna make more money. But if you sell when the markets are coming down and then you make a mistake and you think, oh, I think the markets, they've bottomed out, and you buy, but the things continue to go down, then if you're the kind of person who is selling because things were coming down, then what's going to happen? You basically you lose more, and then you've not done the right thing. Or let's say you waited until the markets had come down a lot more than you would have wanted, sold at that point, and then you see things are starting to recover, and then you actually buy back when things are more expensive than you sold them for. So you could be wrong. You need to be right twice in order to make this work. So that's going to be difficult. So number one, do nothing. Number two, another option would be to actually set limits or stops, so that if there's a price that you're comfortable, or let's say profit you're comfortable with, to sell, you put those stops so that if the price reaches a certain point, it automatically sells. That takes away the emotion from, oh, should I sell? The hesitation, should I sell now? Really, should I? You set it, it's going to sell whether you like it or not. And the only way to reverse that is to, do something about it, stop that before it's actually executed, because once it's sold, it's sold. So some people decide to do that. Then there's the number three, which is what a lot of people do, is they sell at a profit. They decide what's good for them, what's healthy for them. If a stock is made 10% or 12% or 15%, they sell that and then watch that stock like a hawk. And then if it comes down much lower than they bought it for, and it's still a good company they believe in, and they know it's going to recover, they believe in it, then they buy when the price is even lower, so that when the markets recover, they're going to make an even bigger profit. So that's another one there. You sell at a profit and then buy when things have lost, and then wait for them to regain. And then what other people do is they sell some of the stocks, not all of it, like 50% or whatever. Let's say there's, you've bought, let's say, shares in Barclays, and they've made you 80% profit. You still believe in Barclays, but there's another company that you really want to get into, let's say BP, or Shell, or one of those, defensive stocks. So some people will then sell half of the stock or the money in Barclays, and then use that to buy into the stock that they want. And for example, if you wanted to buy BP, you use the money you've generated from selling half of what you had invested in Barclays to buy the shares in BP. And then there's also another option where you don't sell anything because you believe in the things you have bought already, and they're going to continue to go up at some point when markets recover. But you have money sitting around. Some people do keep money sitting around because they're not sure, what to do with it. So like, oh, wow, I had this money waiting to be invested. Now you buy BP shares using that new money. So that could be from the money sitting around, or for some of us, it's the money that you get from your salary. So it's the end of the month, so I've just been paid, and so now you've got new money that's come into your possession, and then you can decide what to do. So there are options, as I said. So what will I do, or what have I done? What I've done, the day I got paid, I took some of that money which I've allocated to my investments. I worked out my budget, and I know how much I'm putting into the stock market every month. And I've actually invested the money. I'm not going to wait and see or things go lower or whatever, because I am busy. I work full time. I don't have time to be watching the markets and trying to time it. And I know for 100% that I'm not great at timing the market. So the best thing for me is to just say, as soon as I have money available, I invest. If things go lower from where they are now, I'm okay with that, because I'm not investing for the next couple of weeks or so. My portfolio is going to, I'm looking at the long term. I'm in it for the long run. at least 5-10 years. So in 10 years time, even if I've bought something and the stock price has gone even lower, and yes, I could have bought more shares, I got more shares for it, eventually when that goes up, it doesn't matter when I bought it, I will still have made a profit. Yes, somebody who buys it at a lower price might make more profit compared to me, but I'm not in it for the comparison. I'm not in it for comparison's sake. I'm in it for my sake, which is for me to make money. So I don't really care if other people are going to buy the stocks at a lower price, because we're not going to share their profit or mine. Their lives are totally separate from mine. And so it's just what benefits me. And if in the long run I'm going to make money, I put it in. So that means I automatically do what's called dollar cost averaging. Although I think it should be pound cost averaging in the UK. But anyway, dollar cost averaging, that's when you drip feeding into the stock market, not necessarily waiting for any, ups, downs, or sometimes you can if you want to, but it's just putting in money regularly and then waiting for the markets to recover. So how often you do that? Some people do it, every 6 months, every few months. Some people do it monthly, like me, because I rely on my salary to do that. Some people might do it every 2 weeks, others every week. And there is actually some people who do it on a daily basis. And if that works for you, that works for you. Some people, it takes the anxiety out of, the investing for some people, out of the emotion that it is just like, okay, it's going to go in and I'm just going to buy every day or every week, every fortnight, every month, and that process actually helps. I did a short recently just talking about just automating everything, and regardless of what's going on in the stock market, money comes out and goes and is invested. For big investments I do that manually, but it helps. And again, because I've automated things, I'm not going to think too much about it. It's just going to come out and go in and be invested, and that's it. The automation bit, the tricky bit is that, obviously once you automate it, you decide on the day that you're going to be investing. For example, if you say every week, then you decide against every Monday, or every month is what day of the month is the first of the month or whatever. So yes, if you do that, although you're still dollar cost averaging, then you can miss out a little bit, because maybe the markets might be down now, but by the time the first of the month comes along, things may have already started to recover, so you may miss out a bit. So sometimes that's why I still keep my automations going, but then if I see there's an opportunity, I take extra money from my salary and then just plug it in. So that's what I've done, because I am not good at timing the market. I know I'm investing for the long term and I don't need the money right now. So if you're in a similar position as I am, then that might be what you could do. I'm not saying what you should do, is what you could do. Obviously, people's circumstances are different, and the situations are different, and the reasons why they're investing may be different. So if, for example, you invested money to generate more money so that you could buy a house, you want to generate enough money to put in a deposit for a house or flat or whatever property, and your goal was to buy that property in the next couple of months or so, then your situation is completely different and you may need to do something different, because the markets are coming down and you don't know what's going to happen. Then the markets could come down even further and you may not be able to generate enough money for your deposit. So what would I do in that case? If you subscribe, sign up for notifications, and come back to our channel, I will answer that question for you, because that's going to be one of our follow-up videos, what to do in very specific situations. Now, bear in mind, I'm just a regular person who's interested in finance and has been winning with money through investing in the stock market and doing other things. But I'm not a financial advisor. So don't take what I'm saying as a financial advice. This is just giving you information as part of your research, because we always say, always do your research and then always do what's best for you. But anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you found it valuable, and if you did, then please do give us a like, a thumbs up, and if you have not yet subscribed, and I know the majority of you will not have subscribed because we know how many subscribers we've got, then you need to subscribe, and we'd really appreciate that. Otherwise, we'll have another video for you real soon. Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and go in with money. Bye for now.